This is the inaugural BNFM Sales Podcast, officially coming to you from the Veach boys. So we've been talking about doing this sales podcast for, I don't know, a year. But we're at that spot now where we really want to do this in support of some things happening with Bottleless Nation, right? As we all come together as one Bottleless Nation as of January 1st, there are some changes in that Cameron's becoming the president of field sales, Hayden's taking over Sales University completely, Todd's moving into a role with enterprise accounts. So the field sales organization is going to be dealing with you guys. So I thought it would be helpful for, and again, 355 on the team. It's going to continue to grow next year. It's just helpful for everybody to understand your backgrounds or our backgrounds together, which is all started in sales. Even though we've done every aspect of the business, just so people can get to know you. So here I'm gonna, Austin, I'll start with you so Cam and Hayden can listen, and then they can follow suit. We'll go in the birth order for the first question. So first question has to do with your initial start into sales. What were your initial impressions of sales or being sales in this space? And then what changed maybe over time as you got your feet wet? So maybe start with because you all started at some stage in the game, whether it was as an intern or full time. So feel free to start wherever you feel most comfortable.
So first sales experience was the internship with One Source Water back in 2013, I think. It was 2013.
Ron Burgundy?
Yeah.
13?
It's been a minute. And so lived in Cincinnati with a college roommate, lived in his parents' basement, and we worked kind of as a team throughout the beginning of the summer and towards the end of the summer. It was really kind of, we were good enough individually to kind of divide and conquer, to try to maximize our comp plan as any good salesperson would do. And so I would tell you that in the beginning of that, it was helpful to have a buddy, and it was very eye-opening as to the level of independence that you had. Because when you're coming from education, it's like you go to class, it's a very rigid schedule, and then you're kind of released into the wild with a professional experience. And it's like, here's your business cards and an iPad. Go sell things. Well, what about a schedule? You make your own. And what about appointments? You book your own. And so it took a second to kind of get the hang of that in the very beginning. But my initial impression of sales was that I wanted to do something where I liked the concept of whatever effort I put in or however hard I worked, or, the craft that I was trying to perfect, as the better I was at that, the better my compensation would be. Because in the beginning, that was really what mattered to me in college. Took that experience, and then by the end of that internship, it was really eye-opening to, I revisited a few of the customers that I'd sold, because I was trying to get, we were one cooler away from second tier bonus. And I was commuting from Indy to Cincinnati to try to get this, because my college roommate, him and his family took their vacation with 2 weeks to go in the summer. And so I was driving from Indy every day to Cincinnati to try to find one machine for second tier bonus. And I was stopping by current customers and trying to get them to add one. I was begging, please, please add this machine. And it was really cool to see all of the customers that we had signed throughout the summer, how happy they were about changing service, how happy they were with the product, how happy they, things were being said like, I can't believe I almost told you no. I can't believe I almost hung up on you when you first called me, but you seemed pretty desperate and you sounded like you were 12. So I thought I'd give you a chance, that kind of thing. And so, because while you're chasing and grinding, it's hard to be, you're trying to help somebody with a sale. It should be a mutually beneficial transaction, but you don't always go back in that 90-day window after it closes, at least not in our world now. So because I was going back quickly, I got a really good glimpse of people they were thrilled. And then I went back to school and wrote a paper. Basically, in the paper was describing how the water business was a land grab, and how if you won that contact or that account, it was really hard to lose, because we were replacing another service that no one was happy with, but it was still hard to get them to make the switch. And which is kind of what got me interested in wanting to do this in 2015.
So 12 years later, do you feel any differently?
No, it's
right. You wrote the paper 12 years ago. You don't feel any differently today, do you?
I'm grateful that we were raised in a household where sales skills were commonly preached and taught, and stories were exchanged. And I thought you and Mom did a really good job about talking about real life things, talking about money, talking about how things work. And so to take that, and then my college professor who basically I was explaining to him the concept of this water business. And he's like, oh, it sounds like a land grab. And that was what the title of the paper became, because from a conversation that we were having. And fast forward, here we are 12 years later, grateful for all of it. But the experience it was so much easier once I got the hang of it, which took about 30 days, and better than I would have ever imagined.
Awesome. Well, perfect. Cam, we'll transition to you. And you can start. I know you obviously did the internships as well, as you were raised in the business. But you can start wherever you want. You can start with when you got out of college. You can start with during the summer. Whenever you want to start is cool, because I think it's just good for people to hear how you get started and what the experience was.
For sure. And I think quick before you jump in, last piece. We did not hit second tier bonus. And I want since the sales teams who listen to this, and it was not gifted to us either by you at the time.
No, it
wasn't. No concessions were made, and that's okay, because that's how I feel.
Well, I do love that you guys were fighting for second tier bonus, because it was, I was fighting for first tier bonus, and I got it the last day of the internship. And I remember talking to this guy, and actually, the guy was excuse my French, he was an asshole. So he was, drilling me, and I said, look, I'll give you this price point. I'll get you a better term, the term that you're wanting, because at the end of the day, I'm not really trying to make money on this. I'm trying to hit my bonus. And he said, well, why didn't you just say that? Okay, let's work together. So he understood where I was coming from, and then we worked something out. But no, I think it is cool for us to mention that, especially with the internship. Before the internship, we were on the service side. So Austin and I helped out with service over the summer, which gave me a really good glimpse into just the industry. And to be honest, early on, how people work outside of school, because that's all we knew was work as hard as you can at basketball practice, work as hard as you can in school to get good grades, and then to be shifted into the real world for the service side and then the sales side. I learned pretty quick that it's really easy to separate yourself from other people if you just actually work really hard. And that not a lot of people who work a 9 to 5 work, or 8 to 5 work hard. It's just kind of the reality. But during that internship, whenever I first started selling, for me, like Austin said, you and Mom did a really good job of introducing us early on into what realistic expectations are of somebody who's professional, somebody who works hard. For me, having a true hunter role and making money over that summer, and understanding and seeing the direct translation from hard work to making money, honestly kind of ruined me whenever I went back to college, because I remember telling my business professor, I did well that summer, made a lot of money that summer.
Well, let's be specific. How much money did you make in a sales job over the summer with no help?
I think we ended up making over 30 grand over the summer.
Over $30,000 over the summer. Yep. You're exactly right.
2.5 months.
2.5 months. Yeah. My first business class that I had coming back, we were helping out a local business in college who was kind of failing, and we were helping them out with their business strategy and things like that. And I was helping provide them, my team was helping provide them with some solutions. And my professor was like, hey, can you go a little bit further and help them out a little bit further? I go, I'm not going to lie to you. I kind of just want to be, because if I'm going to be working hard and actually putting in work that somebody should be paid for, they should just pay somebody. They're getting this for free. And so I got like this, it ruined me because it got me introduced to like, hey, when you're working hard, you should be paid for it. And in that moment, I was like, hey, professor, I already know what I want to do after school, something in this industry, because I really loved it and enjoyed it over the summer, but I'm not going to work harder than I need to if I'm not going to make money.
So switch gears. What did you, when you first jumped out of college and Office H2O was rolling, right?
Yep.
What was that first month or two like, and what changed? What were some of the experiences emotionally or results wise? Maybe you had that first year that you want to talk about, and then we'll.
I remember the first account Cameron sold that gave us the first funding that basically felt like a lifeline.
Austin, speak up just a little bit. Just speak up.
I remember what was it, Indiana Farmers Cam? Was it the first account you ever sold?
Indiana Farmers Bureau Insurance.
Yeah, they signed a deal for like 300 RMR for 60 months in a time frame where we had just opened, we had no money, we had no nothing, and Cameron presented like an $18,000 agreement, and we were like, "We're rich, let's go!"
We were jumping up and down, doing like the
And then we bought 2 pallets of IG 900s at the time, and then I was like, "Where's all the money? Where did it all go?"
Yeah. Later that year, you got introduced to taxes, and that was a whole other story for another podcast. So,
my first year out of college selling and just really just diving into it, so as we were getting into it, I will say that I've started to become anxious about like just my funnel and constantly trying to stay in motion and feeling like, starting from scratch and starting from nothing it makes you anxious. You're like, I got to go meet as many people as possible, as fast as possible. So really, whenever I first started selling right out of college, it was pulling 50 to 80 cards a day and just trying to get in front of as many people as possible because, look, I came in as a blank slate, and we always talk about just following the process and and how it translates directly into more sales. I didn't come with any other baggage or any other outlook from another industry. I only knew what I was being told by you and by Austin of what I needed to do. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to run as fast as I possibly can. And then I'll figure it out along the way. So if I really look back, and I was kind of reflecting on that with Sam, my wife, obviously you guys know that, but for the listeners, last week we were talking about like early on, she was like, well, right off the bat, you were probably just a natural. And I was like, no, I can remember vividly my first year being so embarrassed by how bad I was in some meetings, and just learning from those experiences and walking out and literally just thinking to myself, well, I'm gonna learn from that, never let that happen again. But what's even funnier is that a lot of those meetings that I thought I did terrible on, I ended up calling back and I said, hey, it was like maybe 6 months or a year later, saying, hey, I really didn't do a good job the last time I met you. Can I get another try? And they, people were like, yeah, sure, come back. So, it was also cool in that experience. I got to learn like, it's not really about how well you do in the meeting or how good you are with sales strategy in the meeting to try to, coerce this person into getting a system. It's really about just building a relationship and becoming likable fairly quickly. And I was just telling the team this last week that whenever I was on our Monday call, I was saying the most important thing you can do is just set the meeting. Just introduce yourself, set the meeting, set the relationship. You don't have to make the sale now, but you just introduce yourself, especially this time of year in the winter when things start to kind of slow down. You can at least use this opportunity to say, hey, I just want to come in and introduce myself. You don't have to buy it from me.
Right.
And, yeah, it was cool. It was cool to learn over time. It was about like, oh, this is about communication, building a relationship, and becoming the person that they call whenever they need something. It's not really about just trying to be super smooth and overcomplicating the sales process. It's just about being.
I don't want to gloss over this, and then I want to ask Hayden the same question. But I know you were picking up 50 to 80 cards a day.
Yeah.
I remember when you did it. And I don't want to gloss over that, because at the end of the day, you do that for a long period of time, and you start, because I remember looking at your desk going, oh, there's a system here somewhere, but oh my gosh, that's a lot of cards.
Yeah, and I was very bad on the phones to begin with, and I quickly learned how to quickly learned to get better. That comes with time. So
Well, it's good. I want people to, and I want to transition to Hayden, but I want people to hear that you weren't good in the beginning. It's worth being bad to be good later. And oh, by the way, you could make 30 grand in a summer. I mean, it's worth being bad at to be good at later, like anything in life that's worth anything. So,
100%.
all right, Hayden. So you get to start after your brother starts a business. Obviously, your dad's already involved in the industry in a couple different ways.
Mm-hmm.
You see your brother sort of take off, and you've done a lot of different things by this time. You've been in service as well.
Yep.
And let's talk about you kind of transitioning into sales. You could either start in the summer, or you could start when you first got out, and then kind of wrap it up with how you got involved with Sales University.
Absolutely. So I'll start off with, and this is kind of a fun one to take a trip down memory lane. I was thinking back that I knew probably half the talk track at some point in high school, just based off of you guys talking about it, or just conversations, or hearing Austin repeat it, or and just little memories like that, that I had a grasp of the structure, just not exactly what the words were. But no, I started off in service. I was hired at the same time as one of our lead dispatcher, John Ogden, with the idea that we both had half a brain, and combined we could go install systems. That was the kind of idea that was relayed, and that's what we did. So did that for a summer. I also did one of the summers I went out and did surveys. I don't know if you guys remember the surveys, but we tried to get a pulse of who was interested in changing water vendors, and then we placed the first couple hundred Iguazu 900s out in the field, but people kept messing with the buttons up top and locking themselves out of ice. So I went around and I had a list, and I went and put stickers all over all of them. And that was pretty fun. But the first summer of sales, I actually did joint sales. I think kind of like Austin did, where I was a duo running around the field. That was really great experience, but also pretty frustrating, just because there was points where I was dragging the other person around a little bit. Like, hey, we need to, we just barely, by the skin of our teeth, made, if tier 1 bonus was 2,500, we made 2,501. Like, we barely got there.
Austin can relate to that story. So
yeah. So there was a lot of like, hey, we got the cards, the best ones we mark 1, intermediates are 2s, and the really rough ones that are going to take a lot of doing are the 3s. I'm calling the 3s, he's calling the 1s, because if he were to call the 3s, I don't think we would have gotten him. But that was great experience. And then funny enough, like kind of like Cam was saying, the summer between my junior and senior year of college, I hit tier 3, and went back to school. I remember just sitting there just like, oh my gosh, I think I made like $29,000 selling coolers. That's unbelievable in one summer. But and to make things even more interesting, this was the Greensburg house commute at the time was pretty, an hour and a half each way every morning, and plus I was running 50 to 70 miles per week at that time. So the summers were very full, but at the same time they were very much for growth.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, so funny enough, when it comes to university, I had to go through, I'm sure like Cam did or like Austin did, university each summer I came back, just to get a refresher and make sure I'm hitting the ground running. So I went through university 3 times, and fast forward to 2022 was, I think, the first time I was asked to help out in a Sales University class. And immediately you get in there and you think, man, I maybe forgot about some of this stuff, like it was working so well. I stopped doing it. And,
that's the magic of teaching it, is you're like, oh, I forgot I was supposed to be doing this part. So
yeah, absolutely. And then plus being on the other side of it and leading the exercise rather than, just worrying about knowing the verbiage of the talk track and certain aspects like that was really interesting. And just the amount of growth you see from people on day 1 versus day 4 too in university, where they come in and we hit them with all the information and they're, oh my God, then as soon as you know it, they get it. And the growth is there. And by the time they're about to leave, they're itching to get in the field and they feel like they're a professional. So seeing that process is pretty cool too. A big change from day 1 to day 4 in university.
Yeah.
And then plus the camaraderie with the group. They always
for doing university that many times. Austin and I did not, obviously, because there was no university when it was just us.
Yeah, I remember we still have the picture of the board room.
We were in the conference room doing basically a lot of the content for university, but we were doing it in that little cracker box initial office for H2O.
I don't know where I saw that picture, but it came up and there was just basically a circle desk and a little projector. And that's what it was.
That was correct. It was like me, Cam, Saxton, and Jake Reynolds, who now works.
Funny enough, Jake. Yeah, it's now Jake's back in the office.
Austin, keep speaking up. It's a little. That's okay. I want to make sure everybody can hear you.
Kids got me sick, so I got a raspy voice.
But no, I hope that answered your question, Dad. I don't know if I left anything out there.
It did, and I don't know if I've ever told you guys this story, but I'll do a quick one. When I got into sales, I sat down with a guy named John King, who was my first boss in sales. And during the interview, the guy said, if you'll do everything I tell you over the next, 6 months, everything I tell you to a T, and if you just grind in and dial in, you'll make $50,000. This is in 1989. 88, 89. And I'm like, and I got the job, right? I kind of tied it into cross country and sports, and I got the job. And I remember leaving going, I have no idea what I'm doing, and I am terrible. So my philosophy was, I'm going to double whatever he tells me. Whatever he tells me to do, whether it's anything he tells me, I'm going to double or he's going to fire me because he's going to find out that I'm a fraud. I'm serious. This was the mindset. So 12 months later, I made $99,000 because I doubled the activity that he told me to do. And from there on out, I was hooked, right? Because I knew that, and again, this is in 1989 when my friends are making $25,000 coming out of college. And I just had to do this activity thing and do all these uncomfortable things and make a fool of myself and try to, this was office equipment, and demo this piece of equipment to my wife at 9:00 at night to make sure I didn't suck. And I would repeat myself. I would say the word okay in the beginning, like 29 times in a presentation. Okay. I was terrible. So terrible, just terrible. But as long as you did the work and and then you start, anyway, that's activity is such a big deal. So again, for the audience, I just want the team to know where you guys started, which is from the beginning. Nobody's handed anything. Everybody had to go out and earn, and you guys really had to start a business from scratch with, no real safety net, which I applaud you.
The three of us, I just looked it up. It's 6,500 plus machines, new business.
So the three of you moved how many? 6,500?
6,500, yeah.
So the three of you have sold that many since you've been in the business.
Yeah.
So that's a great segue, Austin. So the three of you have personally sold 6,500 units. What was your first big deal and how did you get it, Austin?
Oh boy. The first big deal was Borg Warner but it was, I forget the name of the original company. That company, it's now BorgWarner. It's in Noblesville. And so it's a publicly traded, massive, multi-billion-dollar company today, but they had a division, and we get the meeting, and walked in. I think I climbed in through the dock delivery door to get into the facility. Allegedly did that to find a facility manager who gave me the plant manager's information. And then I called the plant manager, and he's like, yeah, purchasing, and flips me to purchasing. So we meet with purchasing, and she says, I'll take a free trial. And it's like nine units in 4 commercialized machines. And this is July or August of 2015. So we've been alive for 90 days.
90 days.
120 days. And so I was like, hey, great. Free trials coming in. And then I said, I'll have a meeting on the books. When can we meet? And she gives me the time to meet. And she said, bring an agreement with you because I got the green light. So we'll have the free trial. We'll have it for like a couple days, and then we should sign because the timing of their other contract and whatever, they needed to do it quickly. They were so fed up. When Andy Barker at the time went to go install the free trial, he called me and he's like, hey, they're telling me that the girl you're asking for, she doesn't work here anymore. So I call her up, and like her direct line, it sends me to someone with a British accent who answers the phone and says, yeah, sorry, we just merged yesterday and their whole department's gone. So I call Andy back and I'm like, hey, hold on, I'll be right there. And so I go with Andy, and I convince the first person that I met through the dock door. I was like, hey, I have a free trial being installed today. And he's like, yeah. The purchasing gal told me about it. Let's put it in the break room. And so we resurrect this dead deal because the contact was literally let go in a 48-hour window between saying yes and us installing it. And then the facility guy connected me with the plant manager, and we ended up signing it, and then 2 or 3 more facilities over the next 2 years. But one of those, like, you exhaust all the options to get in. Oh yeah, skin of our teeth. And then
thin threads, and you had to sell it more than once.
Yeah. Like we're standing in the lobby with a water machine going, hey, I don't know what to tell you, but they said yes, and we have it. And by the grace of God, he said, yeah, Cindy's told me that this was happening before she was let go. So shout out to Cindy because she kept us alive. And that was the first LTA under my belt, the first big one.
And a lot of people would have said, oh, I guess this isn't happening, and would have never pursued it. So
I dropped what I was doing and drove right there, and we got like we installed it. It was like 3:30 on a Friday too. One of those where you just, you do. So he was in a great mood. He's like, yeah, just whatever, fine. Just make sure it doesn't leak. I'm like, okay, yeah, we can do that.
So Cam, first big deal. How'd you get it?
First big deal. I think it was Dick's. It was Dick's Sporting Goods Distribution Center was my first LTA.
I remember that.
And that one, I remember I called. I finally got the contact's name after I cold called 3 times, because the first time I got a security guard who was mean and wouldn't give me any information. And then I got back in my car and I was like, I'm going to go back later this week, try to see if I can get a different security guard. Came back, same security guard. And he was like, what are you doing back here? And I was like, oh, sorry, that's right, I already stopped in here. And I left. That next week I was like, no way he's there again. And so I go in, and it was a different security guard, and it was a new security guard. And they were like, I'm new to the job, I don't know what's going on. I'm like, no, that's fine. I'm just, you might have a directory there. And I just guessed, because usually there's a directory that's like right on the edge of the desk that you can't see from our angle walking in. And I go, it's generally like if it says facilities manager, and he goes, oh yeah, it's Jeff Cherry. And I go, yeah, what's his number again? Could you provide me with that? And so I wrote down his phone number, and I called him, and he said, as soon as he picked up, he said, bravo, I'm getting my information. And I said, thank you. And the one thing I said, which I had heard Dad, you say this at one point in time, and I had never tried it. And I was like, I was just calling to see when the last time was that you talked to your rep, your water rep. And he said, I've never talked to a rep. And I said, oh, so you don't have a current relationship with anybody over? They just show up to service. Do they show up to service on time? He goes, well, no, not really. They don't really do that either. I said, sounds like a pretty good opportunity for us to at least meet. And he's like, well, congratulations again. You got a hold of me and you got a meeting, but don't expect this to go any further. And so, we met, and that was the first time I had taken apart a cooler. And I usually look at the UV light. You try to pull the UV light to show that it's not working. I pulled it up to show it wasn't working, and it was surrounded in like this black film. And so he took a screwdriver and popped open the top of the holding tank to find black all on the inside of the water cooler. And he said, get me a demo, get me one tomorrow. We're going to do this pretty quick. And he goes, do you have an hour? And I go, yeah, my next meeting's not till 3:00. And it was like 1:00. And so he took me out on the golf cart, had me write down notes where every single water cooler was in the distribution center. And I acted quickly because as soon as I got back to the office, I sent him an email, went through detail on everything that we discussed, what the plan was, where every system was located, which is very key. If you want large deals, you have to be detailed, and you have to make sure that they know that you have your shit together. Because like anything else that you're doing a large project on, whether it's in your house or in your business or anything else like that, you want to make sure that you're not just doing it on a whim. You want to make sure that you have all the detail. And so I was in there, just going crazy, making sure that he had all the information he needed, and got it signed, I think, a week later. After that was my first time dealing with terms and conditions changes. He said, I need your help changing these. And I go, I don't think we can do that. And he said, yes, you can. Yes, you can.
That's never seen that done.
I remember the deal, and I remember going back and forth with the terms and conditions. So
yep. So that was
still a customer, right? Still a customer.
Still a customer, still on speed dial. He calls me every 6 months just to catch up.
Yeah, nice guy.
Yeah, any large target accounts that I have, I still keep in touch or in contact with, just because that's kind of the line that I used a lot at the time was, you got a lot of systems. How good is your relationship with your rep? And it's important for a facilities guy to actually have somebody that they can call or text if something goes wrong.
So let's real quick. Jeff still calls you 10 years later all the time, and you keep in touch. Ken Downham was the plant manager who signed for Borg Warner. He called me a few months ago to tell me he's retiring. Like, we're just vendors to them is kind of my approach to it. I was surprised. I was very flattered that he called and said, I'm retiring, and, just wanted you to know, appreciate, working with you for the last 10 years. So, but I think that's really cool in our space, where if you can provide the value and you can, it's not hard. You're touching base like once every 6 months. That's it. And people remember that because of how much other people don't do
it. Right. Exactly right. Hayden, how about you, buddy?
Yeah. Pet Supplies Plus in Seymour, Indiana. I don't know. Cameron helped me, I think, finalize that one. But that was a very fun one because it was right at the end of the summer. I had 1 week to close it before I had to report to training camp. So I was on a timer. But when I had got that card, it was a similar situation, guard shack. But because I looked like this, I kind of pulled up and I was like, dude, I'm an intern. I was like, I just need a card. Just please let me through. And he did. And I got a card for the plant manager, which was, I felt like, pretty lucky. I just kind of bumped into him. I called that card. I was scared to call it. I called it on a ride day because I was showing him who to talk to on the phones. And I had it set aside. I accidentally picked it up. I was like, okay, we'll let it rip, and booked it. I was incredibly nervous. And to top it off, when we ran the meeting, it was the first boardroom style meeting that I had run, where it was just me and 7 other people.
Yeah.
It had never been that. So, so not only was it for 25 coolers, it was a board. Everything about it was different. And I still remember being in that boardroom talking about the jugs and just, I didn't know where to go with it because I was like, I just can't show my iPad to all these people. So I started asking questions. Who do you guys use? How do you feel about them? Turns out the HR ladies hated moving the jugs. Not the plant manager, the assistant plant manager was moving jugs around on a forklift to get them from point A to point B. And they had a bunch of problems. And not only that, they were paying, I think it was somewhere around $2,000 a month for jugs. Or maybe not 2,000, but up there essentially, to where it would have made sense.
Easily done.
Yeah. So there was a lot of that aspects where those were pretty cool to see in real time. And I remember I did hop on a golf cart similar to Cameron's story. And then we did a walkthrough with, I think that was when Brian was on the team, Brian Evans. So walkthrough 2 days later and closed it the day before I went to training camp. And I had contact with him. He left and did a different role about 3 years ago. And he gave me the new plant manager who now calls me here and there. Specifically for, hey, ice machine information, and then that's really it.
So in all three scenarios, kind of thin threads. You had to be creative to get in, right? You had to put yourself under a little bit of pressure, and now those are relationships you've had for a long period of time. So I hopefully that those are listening to this, take that to heart, because it's in the beginning. It is all about sort of activity and being bad until you're sort of mediocre, then you end up being pretty good at it. And then it's being paranoid enough when you're good at it to still work hard anyway, even though you know what you're doing. Right? Mm-hmm. So I want to end, we're 37 minutes in. I told you guys 30 to 40. We're going to speed date real quick. Favorite childhood memory, like quickly. Austin, favorite childhood memory. If I put a gun to your head right now, what's your favorite childhood memory?
Wow. Sectional championship.
Okay. Yeah. Winning the sectional 2011.
Mm-hmm.
Two big threes down the stretch.
Yeah, that was, we beat the fourth best team in the state, and just the rivalry that came with it, but also it was one of those where I would say my kind of an up and down high school basketball career. So kind of like, sports and sales are very tied together. So one of those like persistence pays off kind of moments where you get your shot and it works out.
And you perform under pressure in that one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Mm-hmm. It was a good one. Cam? Anything, could be anything.
Yeah, whenever you said childhood memory, I was thinking like super young, but
yeah, that's fine.
Honestly, like it's really random, but it kind of re-jogged my memory the other day whenever we got our new bottle of Nation gear, and I got a white camo. Austin got like a darker camo, and Hayden got, I think, a blue camo. Or we all got different versions of a camo print for Bottle Nation.
I just got,
and then it just like rekindled that memory of us being on vacation in, I think, Georgia when we were really little, and we were all decked out in camouflage, and we were running around Georgia for an entire day, like climbing trees, basically being like wild men, where we thought that we were like Marines.
That was North Fort Myers, Florida.
But I remember that day because that was the first day that it was like, because Hayden and I and Austin and I, we all never really got along at the same time growing up. But then in that moment, because we were all wearing like camouflage, we were all wearing uniforms. It was like we all just kept on screaming like charge and like sprinting at trees to like climb a tree and stuff. And I was like, looking back, I was like, I think that was the first time we all like were on the same team for the first time doing stupid stuff. But it's just fun.
No, that's great. Well, and you still are. So that's the neat part. Hayden?
It's favorite childhood. I know watching you guys win sectional because I was little at that time. I don't know what was I in sixth grade.
You were in the front row freaking out when those
guys yeah, I was freaking out, and that was pretty cool to see. And then No, I think what I think is we were the first people that I knew of that had done what's called a LAN, which is where you hook up a bunch of Xboxes and TVs together in the same
Oh
room
yeah.
and stack them together. And we did that because dad probably can understand this, because screen looking was a big thing, where if you're playing split screen and Austin's screen's here and my screen's here, he would accuse me of looking at where he's at as we're playing against each other. So that was a
Yes.
pretty fun memory of throwing the room. I don't know if you guys had approved of it, but throwing just the TVs together and doing that.
I crawled under that house several times and ran all the cabling because we
Oh, that
couldn't
is
have,
true. Yeah.
you didn't have lag, could have lagging. We couldn't have screen looking. I'd never played a video game in my life, but I was all in for you guys. So you guys were
I
killing
will
me.
say that I remember, Austin, just random about that sectional. There's a picture that exists somewhere of you taking it. Austin took a jump shot in the fourth quarter when they were up with like 20 seconds left. He took a three when we were up 2, and coach had his hands on his head screaming no. Everybody on the bench was sitting down, and I was like already halfway up with my hands up in the air, like, because I knew it was going to go in. But there's a picture which is like I'm the only one on the bench watching, and like with my hands up because I already knew.
The corner three put us up, and the top of the key three was ill-advised and went in. And then I knew it was our night after that. So,
It would have been ill-advised if I hadn't taken a million of those in
I
the
know.
driveway with the three of you over the course of 18 years.
Exactly right.
Top of the keys
exactly
on that.
Right. So
Well, cool.
Listen,
Well,
if we can we do one last? There's something.
Yeah, let's try to wrap it up maybe in 3 minutes 45. I'm just afraid we'll lose our audience. But
Well, so early in the conversation, you said something about Cameron's desk and all the cards on his desk and just the pure chaos. But he knew he had a system, right? It was a stacking system. He was working things in piles, but each pile had a significance. And I think that's something to touch on, just because the organization side of the sales side is kind of tough. And at the time, we didn't know how to use Excel very well, like a little bit, but not well. But I wanted to just, the territory that I was in for the first several years, it was a lot of smaller businesses, like 1 to 3 unit deals. And so, and I always hit third tier, but I was very transactional. Like my personality it worked, where if you weren't going to make a decision quickly as a prospect, and you weren't going to, if it was going to be too hard, I'd just forget about you and move on to the next one, like really quickly. Just, if we're working together, we are. And if we're not, you're dead to me until I need you in 6 months again when my pipeline runs dry. And that worked. But I also sent proposals within 24 hours and followed up like a madman. There's like these little things that you do, but it was a lot of little stuff. Like my whole, if you look back through my opportunity history, it is a ton of 1 to 3 units, like crazy, with the occasional LTA. But Cameron's was different. Like his territory was different. The way that he went about sales was different. I was transactional, and Cameron was relationship based. Because I remember spending time with him on all day call day, and he was calling the same cards over and over and over again. And I asked him, why do you keep touching base with these people every couple of weeks? They're not going to make a decision. And Cameron, do you remember what you said?
Yeah.
You said, I want them, when they think of water, I want them to think of me. And that, you taught me something on that day. Because I remember being like, oh, I just had a different mentality. To me, it was like, you're making a decision or you're not. I'll touch base with you when I need you, not necessarily when you need me. And Cameron, obviously, you've sold 3,000 of the 6,500 machines that are in your wheelhouse. And a lot of those are really big accounts. And a lot of those really big accounts have either the decision maker has transferred to another big account and brought you in because of such a good job you did on the relationship, or they were, they might have referred you, or the 6 degrees of separation is real, very real. And so I just thought it was interesting because Cam and I had very different strategies and styles, and both were successful, and both worked.
Yeah, I always hit him with the, it's not if, but when. I'm like, you're going to give up on your vendor at some point, and I'm going to be there. And you already know who I am.
and if you've done the talk track right, they should be relatively disgusted no matter what's currently happening.
Yep. Yep.
If you've done it right. So they should already be going down the road of I know I'm not keeping this permanently, whatever they currently have. So
Yep.
Hayden, you got anything you want to part with?
No, no, other than it's kind of fun to walk down memory lane, and my strategy aligns somewhere between the two of them. I think when I first started off, when I had X amount of time to make sales, it was very transactional. Yeah, if they're too difficult or something like that,
Well,
or
that's the
it
summer
doesn't make sense.
internship. Yep.
Yeah, I'm like, all right, gone. Whereas I had to learn, over time to, even though he's going to tell me no, call him every couple of months, call him every 3 months, and just say, hey, whatever, I'm here whenever you need me. And that kind of it sucked at first, and then a year and a half later, when he calls you and says, hey, we had a really big problem, and let's get you guys in here. You're like, oh my gosh, it was all worth it.
It's a game of attrition. And your mom used to listen to me make phone calls in the early days as well. And she would listen to people be really mean to me. And I would have to go down and explain that this person's cat probably got ran over that morning. It's no big deal. Next time I call this person, they're probably going to be super nice to me, and they'll not remember that they chewed me. And they didn't. And there was multiple cases where it was like a bit of a game. Like I never took it personal after that, because I figured all I could picture was they're having a bad day. Their kid did this and puked in the car, and now they got to talk to me. And if I call them back in a few weeks, it's a totally different person, or that person left altogether. So it doesn't. So anything anybody wants to wrap it up with? Anything we haven't touched on? And if you guys want me to just be done from here, I think what I want to do is, we'll get some feedback from the team on things they want to hear specifically. But I thought we'd just start with, hey, here's everybody's background. Here's how I got started, just like you did. And then maybe we'll get into some specific questions, and we'll keep the little Veach Boys sales podcast rolling here. And then maybe we can weave in some guests over time and ask them a few questions. So
I've got one last thing for Cam, because I think this will be fun, and this will maybe segue into the next episode. So for the group, because not everyone was around for Cameron to be on the scoreboard, there was a year, I think, Cam, where you had like 600 units in 1 year.
It's like 560. Yeah.
Something like that. We'll round up, but it wasn't always that way. And so I feel like people need to know that you had a slump. And I remember distinctly the time frame. I remember what you were doing. And I want people, from I don't know if it's from a vulnerability standpoint, but just being real, do you remember what you stopped doing that caused you to spiral a little bit? And then we were able to that Dad was pivotal in kind of getting you to get back on track, because, when you feel a certain way about something, we are all a little stubborn in our own respects.
Yeah. I woke up every day for 3 weeks towards the end of the quarter, and I had 3 deals that were going, and I was like, these are going to go in any day. They're going to close any day. And all 3 were 10 coolers to 20 coolers. And I was like, going to go in any day. And over the 3-week period, I slowly became crazier and crazier, because none of them were closing. One of them dropped off. Something happened. And then there were 2 at play. And then the one that was supposed to be 20 coolers became 8 coolers. And then they still hadn't closed. And then I realized towards the end of the week, and I remember calling you and remember calling Dad, basically with like tears in my eyes, going, I'm an idiot. I stopped doing the stuff that worked. What is wrong with me?
You stopped going for free trials. There was a period of time where you stopped going. You were like direct agreement, or they said, we'll just sign for it. And you said, okay, instead of, really taking that next step and saying, that's great, but we're still going to install a free trial.
I tried to get deals quicker. I just needed to slow down, and I stopped pulling as many cards. I was kind of like, I've been doing this now consistently for 5 or 6 months. I don't need to pull 20 cards every day. I'll make it more like 5 to 10. And that came back to bite me. And then I realized in that moment, I was like, I crushed what I did whenever I first started by just simply going out and trying to pull as many cards as possible. So literally that next quarter, I hit third tier and I didn't miss it after that because I realized there's no easy way to do this. You just have to work hard. There's no, hey, I got it figured out now. It's all good now. You have to keep working hard.
Which is no different than any other sport or any other business or any other anything, right?
I thought I hit that point of the stereotypical sales rep who now gets to golf twice a week because I had it all figured out.
You never arrive. There's a great podcast I sent out actually today about he starts off with whatever you do for this 90 days shows up in the next 90 days. He starts off with that. And that is so true in this business. So whatever you're doing now is showing up. So for those that are, it's going to be thin through Q4. I started talking about this in July. And the reason I talk about winter is coming is because I don't want anybody to let their foot off the gas, right? Because it shows up. It just shows up. Well, we're 52 minutes into it, guys. I knew it would go like that, and it's been fun. And in a couple of weeks, we'll do another one. So we'll talk to you later. Love you. See ya.
Love you too. See ya.
Love you.
See ya. Love it.